Hello everyone, welcome back to TinaTeach. Today we have a new coding series. We're going to be learning about Python. So for this first lesson, I'm going to teach you how to download, how to set it up, and write some, simple code to see what it's all about. So I'm going to click on the Python official site here, and I'm going to download the latest version for Windows. They also have in Linux and Mac OS as well. So if you are running on those operating systems, you can check that out. So I'm going to click download, and then I'm going to wait for it to download. So let's click on the downloaded file, click run, and then click install now. To your start menu, then we have the IDLE here. All right, now let's enlarge that. Now I'm actually going to change the preferences for a bit. Configure IDLE to highlights, and then let's do a dark version. Then let's enlarge the font. Apply, cancel. Alright, now let's test this out. Okay, let's try print, parentheses, quotes, hello world. Let's close it, enter. Alright, now let's try a different thing. Let's open a new file. Let's do print, hello, what's your name? And then input. Down here, let's type in print one more time. Nice to meet you. Close it. Input one more time. And then exit parentheses. Control S to save. Now, what I'm going to do is I have already created a folder called My Python Projects, and that's where I'm going to save it in. And I'm going to save it as Project 1. Replace it, yes. And then let's exit. Let's go to your folder and let's try running project number 1. I'm going to press Control and then scroll to zoom in. Then I'm going to type, my name is TinaTeach. Enter. Nice to meet you. And now if we enter one more time, the program will exit. That's it. Alright, I hope that you remember all of that. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope to see you next time. Remember to like and subscribe. Learn today, better tomorrow. Goodbye. Hello everyone. Welcome to Python from the TinaTeach series. This is our second lesson for Python. Our goal for today is getting to know the basic syntax of Python, and then we'll have a little bit of fun in executing some of the common commands or codes that you can easily understand and remember. So first off, executing codes. So you can execute codes in a multitude of ways. Obviously, there are different software that you can write your codes on, but we're just going to go with the very basic, which is the IDLE that is automatically downloaded when you have Python in your computer. Now you can either execute it through the command line, right? Or you can create a Python file with the .py extension. I will show you each of these methods of executing in a bit. Next step, indentation. So for any other languages, for example, with Java and C, indentation is for readability. You look at the code and it's easier to process. And so it's just an aesthetic issue with Java and C and so forth. But for Python, indentation is how it recognizes where a block of code starts and where it ends. As I've written here, indentation defines where a block of code starts and when it ends. There is no strict rules for indentation as long as you do indent correctly for that specific block. Let's say that you have block 1 and you decide to indent 2 spaces. right? Then you can choose to indent 2 spaces consistently for that block 1. But for block 2, you can choose to indent 4 spaces, for example. So as long as you indent consistently within a specific block of code, there's no issue. As you can see here, you can choose how much you indent, but the minimum is 1 space, right? So you can do 1 space, 2 space, 3 space, 4 space, whatever. It depends on you. It's your preference. However, you have to use the same amount of spaces in a block of code, right? You can choose new indentations for a different block. So I have a little bit of a demonstration here. So this is 1 block of code, all right? And here, let's say you indent 3 spaces. So for the next line, you have to indent 3 spaces accordingly. If for whatever reason you want to indent 2 spaces only, you have to fix this part to get it consistent, or you can do it in another block of code. Next up, variables, very common part of any programming language. In Python, they are created when you assign a value to them. For example, I have the variable x here. I've assigned the integer 5. So now we have the variable x with a value of 5. That's it. As for y, we have the string y as well as z. We also have a string. Next up, comments. So as you know, comments is mainly for documentation or to hide codes temporarily to prevent it from being executed, so you can test different parts of code as well as debugging it. And like many others, comments are completely ignored. So this is a single line comment. Okay, you can do this, single line, or if you want a multi-line with the same symbol, you can just simply write it on another line, and just like that, all right? But if you don't want to repeat the same symbol again and again, you can use triple quotes, all right? Triple quotes to start and triple quotes to end. Single quotes also work as well, single or double quotes. Okay, now let's have a little bit of a demonstration. Since we've already dealt with the IDLE for lesson number 1, let's try the terminal. Going to full screen it and control scroll to zoom in. All right, now let's make a variable. X equals 10, y equals 10. Oh, let's make it 20 actually. My bad. All right. Now let's print x and print y. All right. Now let's see what happens if we add the two together, because they are integers and you can add integers together. You have 30. Okay. Next up, let's experiment a bit with the indentation property of Python. I'm going to create an if block of code. If x is larger than, if x is less than y, right? Enter. Now, this doesn't automatically indent for you, so you do have to press space, X is not bigger, my bad. X is not bigger than y. And now let's see what happens if we mess up the indentation consistency. Print, that's it, okay? Now if you enter, it returns indentation error, unexpected indent. Now let's write the same block of code one more time, but this time we have the correct indentation. Print, x is not bigger than y. Go down, print, that's it. Okay, now enter one more time. X is not bigger than y, and that's it. Okay, now let's try some comments. Comments is comments, so that's single line. And let's do a multi-line. This is a multi-line, triple double quotes. Enter. Now let's try single quotes. This is another multi-line. same thing happens. Okay, that's it for our showcase for Python number 1. All right, thank you for being with me here today. Learn today, better tomorrow, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Hello everyone, welcome back to TinaTeach, the Python series. Our goal for lesson number 2 is we'll be looking more into variables and the different ways that we can create, name, and assign their values, as well as learning about the different types of values that we can assign to them, or at the very least the common ones. First off, creating variables. So there's no command for declaring a variable. As I've mentioned in lesson number 1, I'll link it up here. A variable is created the moment you assign it a value. Now I have a bit of a demonstration here. We have the variable x with the integer 10. For the variable y, we have again 10, but since we have quotes over here, this is a string, not an integer. And if we print x, it'll return 10. If we print y, it will return, once again, 10. They may look the same, but they're actually of different types. Now, if you want to check whether or not a certain value is of a type, it's very simple. You can use the command type, all right? You have it nestled within print, and make sure to open and close the parentheses accordingly. So this will return int for integer. I'm just writing it here, but I will demonstrate this to you in the command line or ideally in a bit. And for y, it will return string. There we go. Now, casting. For casting, you sort of just specify a type. You input the value regardless of how you write the value. It will be converted to the type that you specified it as. So with x here, right, instead of writing x equals 3, you just type in string and it will make the number 3 a string. Same with y, it will make the number 3 an integer. And as for float, it will make the number 3 a decimal. Float is for decimal, really. Int is integers, it's whole numbers. And now, as you can see here, instead of writing print x, print y, and print c on different lines, I ran out of space, frankly, and I've written them all in one line, separated with a semicolon. You can actually do this in your code. It's just sort of a very quick way to test out or to experiment codes. It's not really recommended as a way to write your programs. Next up, quotes. Now, do you use double or do you use single quotes? To be honest, either ones are fine. Next up, the concept of case sensitivity. So with Python, a capitalized letter is not the same as an undercapitalized letter. Now, variable x is not the same as variable x. Now, I have a little bit of code here. We'll execute this in the ideally in a bit. Here we have variable x equals 3. If we print x, it will return 3. Now we have a capitalized x here. If we print this one, it will return 4, right? So they're being treated as two different things. Now, what happens if you do otherwise? Here we have x once again. It is a string called hi. If we print it, we'll have hi. Now, we write the same variable, but we assigned it a value of 5. And now we print it, it will be 5, right? But if you capitalize this x, this will return hi, because it's not the same thing. Now for our Python number 2 demonstration, it's all about variables, right? First, let's create a simple variable, x with the integer of 10. Oh, I'm actually going to use the semicolon so you can see how it works. Y for, let's say, hello. Z for, let's do a float or a decimal. Enter. Now you print x y, and then z, it returns that. Now let's try printing the type. Print type x, right? Oh, almost forgot here. Print, semicolon, print type y, print type z. Alright, for x we have int for integer, for y we have string, and for z we have float. Now let's explore the case sensitivity property of Python. Now I have, let's say I have the variable drinks, and I will make my drinks milkshake. Alright, milkshake. And I have drinks as coffee, and then drinks with water. Okay, now I'm gonna print all of them. Drinks, and drinks. As you can see, these are all treated differently. Now, if it were the same capitalization, they are seen as the same variable. Therefore, if you type the same variable again and you change the value will be changed. Now, that sounds a bit confusing because of the way I'm saying it. I'm just going to demonstrate it since it is a very simple concept. Let's use the variable fruit, orange. Okay, now let's go down here, print fruit, you have orange. Now I type the same variable again, but I change it to apple. Now I print fruit, that is apple, right? Now let's make it fruit. I'm going to change it to, let's see, papaya. Now I print fruit again, it is still apple. But if I print fruit, I get papaya. Okay, now last but not least, variable casting. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and let's say I want x to be a string of 10, y to be an int of 10, and z to be a float 10. Let's see. Now I'm going to print all of their types. X, type y, type z. That's it. Now you have, obviously, string for x, integer for y, and float for z. Alright, thank you for being here with me today. I hope to see you next time. Learn today, better tomorrow. Goodbye. Hello everyone, welcome back to TinaTeach Python. Our goal for today is learning about the different types of Python numbers. So the focus is all about numbers today and how we can code them into our Python project. So Python has 3 numeric types, okay? You have int, float, and complex. And here are the examples, right? So with x as an int, you have 1. Y as a float, you have 1.5. Now looking at this, you can sort of more or less tell that x, int, is for integer, and it refers to whole numbers, right? Positive, negative. And y is all about decimal for float. And z, complex numbers, we have the letter J accompanying it. Now, as I've mentioned in previous lessons, if you want to see what sort of types a variable is, you use a function called type, and you just simply print it out. Print, type, and input the variable that you want to see, right? And please do be reminded of the 2 parentheses right here. You do have to close them properly. Okay, now let's explore the first numeric type that we're dealing with, int, or as I've mentioned, integer. It's all about whole number, positive or negative, and it has unlimited length, okay? Well, not technically unlimited, but it is unlimited in the sense that it's so big that you won't really have to, think of it, or it won't be an issue to you. Now, here are the examples that we have. We have 2, and we have whatever this is, and then we have a negative number, whole numbers, 1, 1, 10, 9, whatever. Next up, float. Float is short for floating point number. Now, that's a long name, but really what it is just decimals, right? Positive or negative decimals. You have 2.6, you have 1.0. Okay, now we have complex. So complex, we have j as the imaginary part. For example, 3 plus 5j, 225j, negative 789j, right? Now, this is a new function that I haven't introduced to you before. So we can actually convert the types, right? So when you assign a value to a variable, you don't have to explicitly declare the types. Python just automatically assumes based on the syntax and the value you put in. But however, you can actually convert those types, right? So you can convert one type to another. And how do you do that? You simply write the type that you want to convert, parenthesis, and put in the variable that has the value that you want to convert, right? So for example, we have x equals 1, and then we have a, and we want to convert this integer of 1 into a float. So we said float, parenthesis, x. Okay, that's it for today's lesson. Now with this lesson, there won't be any sort of demonstration because this is really simple. And remember, learn today, better tomorrow. Goodbye. Hello everyone, welcome back to TinaTeach, the Python series. Today's lesson we'll be learning about string part 1. Our goal is defining what Python strings are in this lesson and the different ways that you can assign strings to variables. What do you do if you only want to assign one character or you want to assign a whole paragraph to it? And then we'll be diving into a little bit with for loops, for looping through strings, and then get to know a common built-in function that returns the length of a value or a variable that has a value. Okay, let's move on to the definition. What is a string? A string is any value that is surrounded by a single or a double quotes. You often see strings being depicted as a character, as a paragraph. It's mainly about text, but you can literally just put anything in between single or double quotes, integer, floats, imaginary numbers, Boolean values, and you automatically make it a string. Okay, I have some examples for you here. We have the variable greeting, then we have the value of hello, we have A with A and B with 32. Okay, now let's see what we're working with next. We're working with multi-line strings. You don't get to see this often with a lot of sort of tutorial, but with multi-line strings you can really just make do with 3 quotes. That's what you need, 3 quotes. You don't need to bother with the formatting. Okay, greeting, hello John, how are you? Reply, I'm fine, thank you. That's it. Alright, what's next? Okay, indexing. So what are arrays? Arrays are basically just a collection of data. If the data is string, you have an array of strings. If it's an integer, then you have an array of integers. As simple as that. Okay, so in this case, strings are arrays, as I've written here, a collection of bytes representing Unicode characters. Okay, and the next part is index. So you use the index whenever you want to access elements to a certain value. And the tricky thing with index is a lot of people tend to, if you ask someone to count something, they would count from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But with index, it starts at 0. So everything starts at 0. The first value that you see has index number 0, okay? So I have an example here. Greeting, hello. If we print the greeting at the index of 0, which letter would it be? Take a guess. The answer would be H, okay? If the index, if you want to find the element at index number 1, it would be E, L for 3, and the L after that for 4, and O is 5, our last index. Alright, let's see what we have next. For loop, a very common way to loop through things. It's most likely the first thing that you'll learn from any guides or tutorials with Python, as well with a lot of languages like JavaScript, C, Java maybe, you know. And I want to explain to you what for loops is. So since strings are arrays, you can loop through each letter with a common for loop. Now, here's the syntax for a for loop. It starts with for, obviously, and greeting, well, this is not mandatory. This is just sort of like a placeholder for you to print out the return from the for loop. So I'll just put it as greeting in hello, how are you? Print greeting. Okay, I'll demonstrate this to you in a bit to sort of show how this all is formatted. Next up, we have length. Okay, so length is very simple and it's very self-explanatory. When you find the length of something, you want the program to give you like a number, you know, and this is a function, this is a built-in function that you can use on a lot of stuff to get the length of a value, the value that you want to return the length of within a parenthesis. One more time, I will demonstrate this to you in a bit. Okay, now let's boot up our Visual Studio Code. First, let's create a variable. Let's make this variable milkshake. Okay. Milkshake strawberry. Oops, strawberry milkshake. Let's go down here and let's print out the length of milkshake. Okay. And then we'll create a for loop for flavor in milkshake. New line, print flavor. Okay. And then we're gonna do something a little bit cheeky. We're gonna have an @ sign and then some more strings and space. Remember the space because strawberry milkshake here does not have a space. If you do not have a space in between flavor and the string over here, it's just gonna be one thing, you know, it's not gonna be separated. Is amazing. Okay. Ctrl S to save. Okay, let's see how this runs. Let's go up and then you see the value that we get is 20. This actually starts at 1, it doesn't start at 0 for convenience sake. And as you can see with the for loop, it prints out everything that's in the value, including the space that we put. And for every value we have is amazing attached to it. Okay, how about we return some index list? Print milkshake. Let's see, I want index 0 until index 2. Let's see what that is. Okay, Ctrl S to save and let's run it. It is S and T. Okay, now these are all positive index. Now there are such things as negative index. And what does that mean? It just basically means reverse. Let's have a negative 2 and let's see how that goes. Okay, we have everything except for the K and the E. How about we just go -5, alright? And it is S, okay? That's it for today's lesson. I hope that you managed to understand all of that. I hope that I did a good job of explaining all of these basic concepts that are very important if you want to study and learn how to code Python. As usual, learn today, better tomorrow. Don't forget to like and subscribe. For our next lesson, we'll be dealing with checking in and not in strings, as well as using if statement. I hope you have a good time. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Goodbye. Hello everyone. Welcome back to TinaTeach, the Python series. For our lesson Python string part 2 today, we'll be learning about how to check strings. Check in and check not, or not in, right? And then we'll have a little introduction to if statements and then printing with if statements. Alright, let's move on to the next part, checking. So our keyword for checking is in, very simple, right? So we use in if we want to know if a string, an integer, float, or just any value is within a value or within a return, or is within a variable. You get the idea, right? It's just checking whether or not something is in something. And here I have our good old variable greeting, hello, how are you? And we have a print you in greeting. So in is checking whether or not the string you is within the variable greeting. If it does exist, it returns to you a Boolean value of true. If it doesn't, it returns a false. As simple as that. Okay, let's move on to the next part. This is checking using an if statement instead. Of course, we still have our in keyword in there, but see this as an introduction to a very common if-else statement that you would often use in your code. Here I have a little comment. It says print only if you is there. So if always needs a condition to do something, and our condition is to have the Boolean value of true. If you in greeting, if you is in greeting and it returns the Boolean value of true, then if would move on to print this string right here. But if it is a false, it would not do anything. It would just stop, just exit, right? So greeting, hello, how are you? If you in the variable greeting, print yes, you is in the sentence. Okay, now let's move on to the next part. If not, the opposite of in. So this is contrary to the in keyword. We have a not in. It checks to see if a value is not within something, right? We have the variable text, and in text we have the value. Jeremy likes strawberry milkshake. Print vanilla, not in text. So for the first part, this would return true only if vanilla is not within text, which it isn't, it's not. So this would return true. And for the next line, print strawberry, not in text. But strawberry is in text, right? So this would return a Boolean value of false. Get the idea, okay? Next part. Here we have an if statement equivalent to what we've just seen before with the printing and the not in key. Once again, we have our text variable, and our condition for this if is if vanilla not in text. So is the string vanilla in the variable text? No, right? So what Boolean value would it return this condition? It would return true. So since it is true, the if statement will continue to print, no, Jeremy does not like vanilla milkshake. Okay, as easy as that. All right, now what we've learned so far is quite relatively simple. I want to show you a demonstration of how you can go up to another level with with what we've learned so far with the in and not in and the if statements, as well as else or else elif. Okay, we'll be writing a dialogue this time. Now I'm going to boot up my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to create a variable named answer, and I'm going to assign input. So whenever you see input, it means that the user, or you as the developer, needs to type in an answer for the code to work with. Input, hello, how are you? And this is the prompt. Remember to add a space at the end of the prompt. Otherwise, your answer will be stuck with hello, how are you, right? Unless you space yourself. But we obviously don't want to create the user any inconvenience. And next, we proceed with an if statement. If the user writes fine in answer our variable, print that's great, I'm fine too. Okay. Else. So this else is very self-explanatory. If is not satisfied or if does not run, else would run. Okay. Else, the user doesn't give us fine. Print, I hope you have better days. Okay, you have better days. Next up, let's create a new variable. Milkshake answer. Input, one more time. Do you like strawberry milk shakes? Okay. If the user said yes, in our milkshake variable, print it's supposed to be a string. I like them too. Okay. Else, milkshake answer equal. So this is a follow-up question, and we're gonna reuse our milkshake answer variable. Input, give the user a prompt. What do you like? Space at the end. Oh, I forgot to add a space over here. Okay. If the user sets vanilla in our milkshake answer variable, print, oh, vanilla's alright. Okay, vanilla's alright. Elif, so this is an alternative to if, because you can only write if once. After that, it is elif until you arrive at your final condition and you use else. The user give us chocolate in our milkshake answer variable. Print, chocolate's not too bad. Okay, chocolate's not too bad. Else, now this is our final condition. Print, it's alright, not everyone knows what they like. Okay. And then lastly, we print thanks for answering. Okay. Now Control S to save, and let's see how this runs. Hello, how are you? Let's go with fine. Okay. I'm fine. That's great. I'm fine too. Do you like strawberry milkshakes? I'm gonna say yes. Right? I'm gonna say yes. I like them too. Thank you for answering. Okay. Now let's run it one more time, and let's try with different variety of answers. Hello, how are you? I'm not doing great. I hope you have better days. Do you like strawberry milkshake? I like chocolate better. You know, I like chocolate better. Then it would say, what do you like? Okay, I realized I was supposed to type yes or no. Unfortunately, I made a mistake. Oh, we'll just experiment and see. So it says, what do you like? I'm just gonna say, I like chocolate. One more time. And it says, chocolate's not too bad. Thanks for answering. Alright, that's it for today's lesson. I hope that you had a wonderful time experimenting with me. So I hope to see you next time. Please do stay tuned for our next lesson, because we're going to be diving deeper with indexing, slicing strings, and sort of returning negative index, positive index, all of those fun stuff, okay? Remember to like and subscribe. Learn today, better tomorrow, and see you next time. Goodbye.
Hello everyone, welcome back to TinaTeach Python. Today's lesson we'll be learning about how to slice an array. And the array that we'll be using is an array of string, because we've encountered this before in previous lesson. So our goal is learning how to slice, what slicing is, and the different syntax of doing it with strings, and then learning how to index as well as negative indexing. Okay, let's move on to the next part now with slicing. So slicing allows us to return a specific element in a string or an array. And you have to understand that slicing and indexing go together when it comes to understanding, because index starts at 0. So in a programming language, they start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like we typically do. And for negative numbers, we go backwards. Okay, what do I mean by going backwards? So let's say you have A, B, C, D. A is at the index of 0, B is at the index of 1. If you go for negative 1, is actually the other way around. So D would be at 0, and then C would be negative 1. Okay, so let's look at the syntax. Here I have a variable called greeting, and in greeting I have an array of string, or just a phrase, hello, how are you, with a question mark. Okay, we count this question mark as well. And first we print the variable greeting at index 2 till index 5. So let's count 0, 1, 2. So it'll print L, and then 3, 4, 5. So it's LON, comma. Okay. Next up we have print greeting, and then there's nothing at the front. So when there's nothing at the front, by default it is 0. So 0 till 7, right? And it's the same with this example right here. If there's nothing at the back, if there's nothing at the front, the default is 0. So till 2 to 0. Okay, actually the 0 standing at the back, it means from index 2, so 0, 1, 2, L right here, all the way to the question mark. And last but not least, we have negative indexing, negative 5 till negative 2. After I give you a bit of a demonstration, feel free to experiment with it. I'm sure it'll give you some interesting behavior. Now I'm gonna go to my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to delete this. Okay, I'm going to create a variable, let's say phrase equals I am a frog, and frog likes to do a lot of things. Okay, well, let's go down here and let's print phrase. I'm actually going to copy and paste this part, paste it a number of times. Okay, up here I'm gonna go 5, and then I'm gonna go negative 2, 7 to 2, so this is just random. Let's see what it gives us, right? 3 to 4, and then let's have negative 5, then we have negative 3, and then 8 to, let's make this a negative number just to see, 10, let's go with 10, right? Negative 10 to negative 20, and then nothing. Control S to save, and let's see how it runs. So first, 0 to 5, you have I am. -2 to 0, you have .s, okay? And then 7 to 2, oh, there's nothing. There's nothing for 7 to 2, okay? Next, 3 to 4 is am, okay? 0 to -5, I am a frog, and frog likes to do a lot of okay? Now you see what now you sort of understand, right? Like what slicing and the concept of indexing is meant to do. Trust me, strings are not the only thing that you can do slicing and indexing with. There's a lot of data types that you can experiment with, but for the introduction of these two concepts, we're just gonna go with string. Okay, that's it for today's lesson. Thank you for being with me here today and making it through till now. Remember, learn today, better tomorrow. Please do check in with my next lesson because we're going to learn about upper, lower, removing a string, replacing a string, and split them open because strings are very ubiquitous. And remember to like and subscribe. I hope to see you next time. Have a great day. Goodbye. Hello everyone. Welcome back to TinaTeach Python. Today's lesson will be modifying string. Well, I have a list of a bunch of things that we're gonna look into today. First, we're gonna have uppercase. You know how to make your text or your string uppercase, lowercase, and then removing the white space before and after our string, and then we can replace them and then we can split them, and let's see what they're all about. Okay, let's move on to the next part. So uppercase and lowercase is very straightforward. Here I have a variable a, and it is a lowercase a, okay? And then I want to print the a as an uppercase a. I just do it with the syntax, no parameters, okay? Upper, and then close the parenthesis. And it's the same with the lowercase, b.lower parenthesis, okay? Next step is removing white space. Now, removing this white space obviously doesn't remove all of the white space there is in your variable. It only removes the white space before and after your string, okay? And we do that with the strip keyword, the same syntax with lower and upper. Alright, now let's move on to the next part. Replacing the string and splitting. Okay, replacing is very interesting. Let's say I have the variable sound here and I have honking, right? Now I don't want it to be honking anymore. I want it to be donking, let's say. That sounds ridiculous. But you can use the replace keyword, and for the first argument, you put in the letter or the word or the value that you want to replace, and then the second parameter the second argument is something that you want to put in instead, okay? So I don't want any h in my sound variable. I only want it to be d. So all of the h here will be replaced with d, as simple as that. Okay, last but not least, splitting. So as I've mentioned before, a string is an array, okay? And when you have a variable colors yellow, red, white, blue, this is considered one value, right? One value only in an array. But what if you want to separate these into separate values? Like you don't want them to be doing stuff together, let's say. And you can use the keyword split. Now, the argument or the parameter for the split, the separator, okay? Since I have a comma right here that separates yellow, red, white, and blue, so my separator would be a comma. However, if you don't have a comma and you would have a space, for example, then you can just simply put the space in here. Or if you have like a slash or like a letter or like a number, let's go to Visual Studio Code, and I'm gonna delete this up here, and I'm gonna have a variable named students, right? Students equals Annie, Christian, Emily, John Stewart. and I'm going to print students, upper. I'm going to go down here and have students, lower. Print, I keep misspelling this. Students dot replace, and I want to replace I with the number 3, for example, right? And then print students split, and I want to use the comma separator, and down here I want to use the space separator. Just space, Ctrl S to save, and let's run it. Okay, so first for upper, all of the names are in uppercase letters, and for lower, all of the names are in lowercase, right? For replace, all of the I's is replaced with a 3, right? Christian over here and Emily over here. And for split, it returns an array where each names that is behind the comma separator is separated into their own value. And for the split, since the split over here uses the space separator, and John Stewart here has a space in between them, so Stewart gets separated into another value as well as John. Okay, that's it for our lesson for today. Thank you for being with me here today. I hope that you managed to understand all of that. Remember, learn today, better tomorrow. Our next lesson will be string concatenation and format. It's literally just adding strings together. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye. Hello everyone, welcome back to TinaTeach Python series. Today we'll be combining strings, and we'll be learning about concatenation, a fancy term for adding string, as well as string formatting, where we cannot concatenate the strings. Okay, so let's move on with it. So first we have string concatenation. I have a variable called first over here, and it has the string value of strawberry. The second variable has the string value of cake. Now I want to combine the two, so I would use the add symbol, which is the concatenation symbol. I would add the first and the second variable. However, since strawberry and cake does not have any spacing whatsoever, what would happen is that these two words would just basically join together. So I can add a little bit of space in between them and just add them to the first and second variable. Very simple, right? However, you cannot add string with numbers. It will immediately give you an error. Neither can you add strings with float, right? But obviously you can add string with string, and you can add numbers with numbers, or integers with integers, and float with float. So how do we get around that? We get around that with string format. Okay, I have an item variable right here, and this is, you can call this a placeholder. Okay, it will store, or it will display whatever value is within these two parentheses over here of the format. Okay, so I have strawberry cake is blank dollar, and then I have the price of 7. Instead of writing the number 7 over here, I can simply input the variable that has the price. Okay, and for this placeholder, you can actually put sort of like an index to them. So obviously 0 is going to be the first argument that's passed to format, and then 1 is going to be the second argument that's passed to format. Okay, very simple like that. Now I'm going to open Visual Studio Code. Let's delete this part, and let's have grade sentence, and has an placeholder on her math test. Okay, I'm gonna print that sentence dot format, then I'm gonna pass in grade. Okay, now let's have something more complex. Let's have sentence number 2, and also has a grandmother who is placeholder years old, and she's celebrating her 80th birthday this weekend. Okay. Print sentence 2 dot format was passed and grade. Okay, now let's try multiple variable. Anne Candy is 5. Timmy Candy is 7. John Candy is 11. And then we have sentence number 3. Anne has placeholder. I'm gonna make it 2. The index is 2. Timmy has, I'm gonna make this 0. So it's going to be the first argument. And John has 1. Print sentence 3 dot format. Timmy Candy, John Candy, and Anne Candy. Control S to save, and let's see how it runs. It returned an error. Okay, it says line 5 in module, replacement index 1 out of range for positional. Okay, so let's put some index in here, some numbers in here, and let's see if it runs. There we go. Okay, Anne has an 80 on her math test. Anne also has a grandmother who is 80 years old, and she's celebrating. Let's run it again. Her 80th birthday this weekend. Anne has 5, Timmy has 7, and John has 11. Okay, let's try 1, 2, and 0. So Anne should have, let's see, John Candy actually. So Anne has 11, Timmy has 5, and John has 7. Okay, that's it for today's lesson. I hope to see you again. Remember, learn today, better tomorrow. Our next lesson for Python would be about escaping characters. Okay, see you next time. Goodbye. Welcome back to TinaTeach Python series, lesson number 10 now actually. We're learning about escaping characters today. So I have a bunch that I want to introduce to you. We have like the single quote, the backslash, the new line, backspace, tab, and carriage return. We'll dive into that in a little bit. So I want to say a brief sort of explanation for what escaping characters do. So a lot of times when you have like a variable or you want to print something and you have these characters like single quotes, double quotes that you want to include, but then Python sort of confuses that with the syntax, right? It doesn't see those quotes or those tabs or new line as actual sort of string format, but as syntax instead, and it returns an error. So by escaping characters, we can basically say to Python, hey, I just want to print this is just a value, it's not a syntax, okay? First, let's figure out what's a carriage return. A carriage return acts very much similar to a new line. It basically makes a new line, but the point of difference is where the cursor lies after Python prints our value. So with new line, it shifts the cursor to like the new line. So if you have hello world, it will print hello world, and then the cursor will go down, right? It will go down to this line right here, new line. But when Python encounters a carriage return, it moves the cursor to the beginning of the line. So after it prints all of this, the cursor go back here, okay? As opposed to new line, it goes down here. So as you can see, all of these sort of escaping is very simple. I'll put them into Visual Studio Code so you can see the output in a little bit. So you just basically use sort of the backlash, right? And then you put whatever character or value that you want to include after the backlash, okay? So let's see how this works. So I have single quotes. Hello world. Then I have backlash. Hello world
2 backlashes. Next is a new line. New line. Put an N over here. Next is a carriage return. A carriage. I return and then return carriage. Okay. Next up is a tab. Basically just space your string with tab. A lot of tabs. This down here it actually doesn't do anything. Okay, backspace. It'll back up your space. Backing T B T B spaces. Okay, now let's print all of this out. Single quote, backlash, new line, carriage return, tab, and then backspace. Oh, okay. Let's add a little bit of space after the comma. Ctrl S and let's run it. Oh, okay, so this is a bit confusing. Let me print them all in new line actually. You can concatenate new line. Okay. But there we go. Wait, let me include the space actually. Copy, paste, paste. Let's replace all of the comma. Okay, all good. Let's see. There we go. New line. So we have the single quotes, we have the backlashes, new line, carriage. Seems like it's a bit too much. Let me just carriage return. And then next we have tab. You see a lot of tabs and then backing space. Let's not complicate this a bit. Let's just make it 2 space, right? And then let's run it. Okay. Now you only have 1 space as opposed to 2. Okay? That's it for today's lesson. I hope that you understand all of that. For our next lesson, we'll be learning about a new concept in Python, finally, and not having to deal with strings, is Boolean, true or false. Remember, learn today, better tomorrow. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Bye!